Hey y'all. So I just finished Empire of Storms and I can't really say I'm disappointed, but I'm not as super excited as I was originally. So if you love Throne of Glass, it is an amazing series. If you haven't already read it, I highly suggest it. It's really good. It's got amazing character development over the whole series. So this is the fifth book in the series, and I was really, really, really ecstatic for it to come out. And I ordered it as an ebook, so I got it the night it came out. I ordered it as a print book so that I have it signed, and I was really excited. And so I started it, and it's the longest of the series. It's 693 pages. So it took me a little bit to finish it because I didn't have as much time as I did to read as I did during the summer. So it was really long. It took me the book came out September 6th, and today's October 16th, so it took me about a month to read it. It was long. So if you ever read Lord of the Rings, where there's a lot of walking, that's kind of how this one compares. It's a lot of walking. So it starts with Aelin Galathynius is the queen of Terrasen, and this is going to have a lot of spoilers if you haven't read the other four books. So she's a queen of Terrasen, and basically she's trying to get her kingdom back and knows that she's going to have to basically fight the entire world for it. So it starts with her and her court walking to Terrasen. And it's her cousin Adian, Rowan, who is her mate, companion, life partner. And later he ends up being her husband, spoiler. And it's also Lysandra, her shape-shifting best friend. And then the two Fae that were part of Lorcan's cadre in the other books, Gathriel and Fenris, come out or become a part of her court too. And then the king of Adarlan, Dorian, he's part of it. So they're walking, and they want to get to her kingdom, and they want to make everything right. But the first problem is that the people who live there now don't recognize her as queen. So she's got to fight for them. And so then they find out that there's this evil who's kind of been throughout the entire series, and his name is Erewhon. Basically, he's the king of the demons and wants to destroy everything and doesn't want her to be queen, and he just sends demons into the world. And what happened in the other books is that he bred women with the demons and made little demon babies, and they're evil, called the Ilkin, and they can fly, and they're indestructible, and the only way to get rid of them is to set them on fire and cut their heads off. So yeah, there's a lot going on. So she's got to take everything in and figure out how she wants to plan everything. And if you know Aelin/Selena, she's very schemy. So Sarah J. Maas writes it so that you don't even know what she's planning. You have no idea what all of her plans are. But as the schemes unfold, you learn what she's done, and it all kinds of makes sense. All of the stories come together. And if you read The Assassin's Blade, it's the novellas for the Throne of Glass series. It makes sense. All the people she's met before come into play in this story. So it goes on, there's a lot of walking, there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of scheming. And this is why I didn't like Game of Thrones. There was a lot to keep track of, and it was really hard to read. I'm a person who can read a book in 2 or 3 days and, figure out what's going on and be good. It took me a month to read this because you have to keep track of everything that's going on, and it's just a lot going on. It's a lot of information. It was a lot. So it's good. I mean, the details are gorgeous. So, she's walking and she gets everything done. And then they have this huge battle with Ilkin. And then she finds that she's holding these 3 weird keys. And the weird keys can take you to an evil part of the world. But if you open it up, then things can come out. So basically, she's got the 3 keys and she needs to find the lock to put them in. And it sounds kind of stupid, but it makes sense if you're reading it. So eventually they get to where the lock is, and it ends up being a marsh where this queen, it's a dead queen, Elena, who watches over her. It's kind of like a temple of Mala, who's the god that is kind of, her line is where Aelin's from. And they go to this temple, and the lock is there, and it ends up being a witch mirror, which you can kind of do anything with. So this witch mirror shows them memories, and Aelin learns how the gods planned for her to be this person. And they keep referring to her as the queen who is promised. And she thinks it means the queen who is promised to change the world and to fix her kingdom. But it really means the queen who was promised to the gods to kind of fulfill a major screw up that was done millions of years ago. And she learns that she's really pretty much going to get screwed over. So I finished it last night at 2 in the morning, and it ended on a cliffhanger, which was super annoying because I thought this was the last book in the series, and I was kind of ready for it to be done and ready for it to be over, because it's a long series, and I wanted that finality, and I wanted to know, that she was going to be okay, or she wasn't going to be okay, or like her kingdom was going to be okay. So it's getting closer to the end, and then the Fae Queen Maeve gets in and screws them over hard. And Aelin goes to shore, and so there's this big battle in the water amongst armadas, and Aelin goes to shore to meet Maeve, and Maeve has her whipped. So in the first book, you learn that Aelin was a prisoner in a slave camp called Endovier, and she was whipped daily, and like she has scars on her back from it. So whipping her is like a huge, huge thing, and she has her whipped, and she makes her count, and Aelin isn't going to count for anybody. So instead of only having 10 whippings, she has way more than she needed to. And it was horrible. Like, the descriptions in the scene were so vivid that I couldn't even. Like, I had to stop and then keep going and then stop and keep going. It hurt to read it, knowing that she was doing this for her country and for her kingdom, and not just that, but the world, because she wants to change the world, and she wants to make it better, and she wants to be with her mate and make it better. So the ending of it, I mean, it was awful. Maeve takes her and puts her in an iron box. And I mean, she's Fae, so if you put her in an iron box, she can't use her powers. So after she's just been whipped, she can't heal herself. It was awful. Like, think of being whipped at least 100 times, and then your body won't heal. It's awful. Like, this poor girl was a slave, and then she's a queen, and she's doing this for her kingdom, and then they just reduce her to, like, nothing. So Rowan, who's her mate, comes, and, like, her whole court comes, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. But by that point, Maeve has left and taken her. And her court's like, what happened? And the Fae Lorcan stood there watching, and he was enslaved to Maeve. So he couldn't do anything to stop any of it. And he is just heartbroken, like, he couldn't do anything to help. So he has to tell Rowan, like, what happened, and it's awful. And probably the hardest thing I've ever read in my life was when Rowan turns and says, "Where is my wife?" And you're just like, what happened? Like, they had been talking about getting married, and, it was obviously something that you knew was going to happen, but it was just your wife? What? So, yeah. And then you find out, she was planning all these things ahead of time, and nobody knew, and all of her alliances come into play, and she's not even there. And it ends up with the shapeshifter pretending to be her so that she can go with her alliances and carry on for her kingdom. And basically the only person who knows knows that she's gone and is going to go take her back and save her is Rowan. So it ended on a cliffhanger. Not really happy about it, obviously. I mean, who's going to be happy about a cliffhanger and waiting probably another year for the next book to come out? But Sarah Maas is amazing. If you haven't read her other books, the Court of Thorns and Roses series, it is amazing. Like, it's probably the best series I've ever read besides the Throne of Glass series. So, Throne of Glass series is amazing. Empire of Storms is really, really good. I mean, Aelin is a badass, and her whole court are just a bunch of badasses. I mean, it was great. Like, it was a great book, and it was a great story, but it's just the ending that I was like, oh, really? After everything this poor girl's been through, this is what we're going to do to her. But, scale of, like, lame to, it was probably, like a 4 out of 5. Just because that ending, like, cannot even, like, so heartbreaking. But it was a really good story. So after the really good story that it was, and it was really long, and you were kind of waiting for this to happen, it was good. I mean, I definitely recommend it, but Yeah, Sarah J. Maas is an amazing writer. I mean, her descriptions are just beautiful. Like, you can totally see what's going on. And it's not one of those, like, I hope someone else is seeing this. You know, like, this is what is happening, and this is what the book is supposed to be seen as. And it was just gorgeous. So, definitely read it. It was great. Prepare for heartbreak because there's a lot of it. But it was really, really good. Definitely recommend it. And next, what I'm going to be reading is This Savage Song. I was kind of looking for a scary book to read over Halloween, so that's what I'm going to start reading. And hopefully I read that quickly and can get back to y'all on how that one was. All right, have a great weekend.